All right, I'm going to do my best to remember where the camera is. And yeah, we're here on a good Sunday night for me, celebrating in my favorite shirt. This is, I don't know if any of you also enjoy thrift shopping, but this was just one of those finds where I was browsing down the aisle and I was like, that's a shirt I'll like. And this has got to be like my favorite shirt. One of my best finds for a shirt yet. So, I don't know, if you're a thrift shopper, hit like, hit subscribe. I am too. Lots of great treasures to be found. Anyway, we're talking about self and independency, because independency is misunderstood a lot. People say you need to learn to become independent, and we misunderstand that, and we think that means that we have to separate ourselves from others and just be by ourselves and not do anything with other people, and be able to just never have other people in our lives, and go live alone, and go not date and not have friends and all this other stuff. And I think it gets misunderstood immensely. Here's what you're really supposed to understand when people tell you to work on independence, or when you realize that you need to work on independence. It's a realization that you are a separate individual, and that is a beautiful thing, and that it's also a beautiful thing to have union with other people, union with family, union with friends, union in the form of relationships, union with a partner, with someone you're going to marry or date, but it's to realize that you are a separate individual, and as a separate individual, you don't have to necessarily do anything big to find yourself. You just have to be able to kind of know these key signs where it tells you that you're okay on your own. Like, if you had a day off spontaneously, or maybe a weekend off that you always get off, and nobody's available to make plans with you, and you have the day to yourself, can you get out of bed and make plans with yourself to do things? Other than sitting in bed and scrolling on your phone and playing with yourself and drinking or something? Because I think those are all signs that we haven't gained independence, when we do things like that, when we sit on our phones, when we indulge in any sort of chemical substance. Can you get up and say, gosh, I love doing this, nobody's available, I'm still going to go do this and have a great time, and I'm going to feel great doing it, right? If you can say, I really enjoy being outside, and you decide to go to the park and walk around the park and just enjoy the park for an hour, and you have no problem being with yourself, and you don't feel a need to reach out to people, and you don't feel really insecure about it, and you don't wonder if people are thinking about you, then you're probably pretty well off being independent. But that's kind of what it looks like. But what it is on a deeper level is it's a realization that we have a self, that we are separate. That when people, and I would say here's where it gets really important, right, is when people get angry at us or think we're blaming them. Let me use a story. I was in the car the other day with my sister. We had made a trip together, and we were sharing stories. And I said, well, I don't like people that do X. I think that's not a good thing. I was talking about lying. I said, I think lying is a red flag. And she got upset. She said, well, I lied. I had a good reason to lie. And I said, this isn't about you, right? This is me maintaining my sense of self. I said, I'm not judging your lying. I understand how easy it is to think I am. I'm simply telling you that I want to encourage people not to lie, right? In those moments, it's very easy for when other people get upset at us to get caught up in them. But to be independent is to maintain that sense of self and distinguish your truth from their, current reality, right? In that moment, she felt I was blaming her. I wasn't, right? My job as an independent person was to realize that she saw what I was saying as blame, me to point out it wasn't. It was just me stating that I value honesty and that I want to encourage people to be honest, right? But typically what would happen if you're codependent or enmeshed is when someone gets angry about that, you might defend yourself. You might cower. You might take back what you said. You might say, well, lying's actually okay. right? And instead I said, whoa, I'm not blaming you, sister. I said, I'm simply stating I encourage people to tell the truth, right? I'm not judging anything you've done in the past. I'm not judging you for the reasons you felt you had to lie. I have love for all that. I'm just telling you, I want people to tell the truth. And if in that moment you'd come to me and said, I feel like I have to lie to A or B or C about A, B, or C, I would have said, I think you'll be better telling the truth, right? Because that's what I value. But being able to distinguish yourself. So those opportunities show up in relationships. We get caught up. People get angry, and we think that we're the cause of their anger. They think we're the cause of their anger. And so true independence is realizing that you are separate. You are separate from them. Yes, you are engaged in that conversation, but you're not enmeshed in their dilemmas. You're not enmeshed in the way they perceive things, or you don't have to be. You know, if you are getting enmeshed in that, you are getting drawn into their drama, then yes, you probably are a little codependent, a little enmeshed, and that's okay. You know, this is something that really isn't taught. We don't understand this. People don't share this with us, and when they do, they don't do a great job of communicating it with us, and that's why I'm sharing this from my own understanding. You know, it's realizing that if I want to spend time with friends, and I say, hey, I want to go to the fair today, and they say, well, I'd rather go apple picking. You know, I can say, there's nothing wrong with going apple picking. I'm going to go to the fair, even if it's with myself. If you change your mind and you decide you'd rather be in my company than go apple picking, then you can come with me, right? But a lot of times we get caught up in those things, and we think we have to please them. We think we have to change our likes in order to make other people happy, and that's where we lose our sense of self. That's where we lose our independence, or miss an opportunity to practice independence. So independence is this understanding that you're separate, right? There is a bubble, a very thin bubble between you and everybody else, and everybody else is in their own bubble. And you can merge with other people's bubbles, but you don't have to. There can always be that film of, you know, this is my truth. I'm allowed to have my truth. You're allowed to have your truth. We don't have to argue. We don't have to disagree. We don't have to be at each other's throats, and we certainly don't have to feel hurt by that. You know, like the example of my sister. I had to lie. I said, I'm not judging you. I'm not blaming you, right? I'm not criticizing your lies or criticizing how serious they were or the reason. I'm simply saying that in my life, what's important to me as an individual is to tell the truth and to encourage other people to tell the truth and to allow people who do tell the truth into my life. And that doesn't mean I'm going to kick you out of my life. Anybody, you know, it just means I'm aware of that, and my prerogative as a self is to encourage that which I hold as important and virtuous to me. You know, it's I consider it a value. I should say value to me. I consider it a value of mine, telling the truth, and I encourage other people to do it. And that's just an example, right? So, you know, what do you hold valuable? Is one of your values spending time outdoors? Is one of your values spending time in silence and in love for yourself? Is one of your values making time to read? Is one of your values educating yourself? Is one of your values learning about your trauma and healing through it? Is one of your values you know, honesty or love or empathy or charity, right? And it is simply allowing yourself to own those values regardless of how other people interpret you sharing those values. You know, oh, you think you're better than me because you're charitable every weekend? Friend, you're misunderstanding me, right? That's all you got to say. Friend, you're misunderstanding me. I'm telling you this is what's important to me, and I'm going to hold true to that. And that's that sense of self. It's understanding that people can do what they want, people can say what they want, people can think what they want, and we can do the same, right? So, you know, becoming independent means realizing that self and what that self looks like. What is important to you? What do you hold valuable? And what will you stand up for? And then learning to stand up for that, and learning to treasure and cherish that and hold it close to you, and then offer that back to the world, encourage others to practice those things. Most of what we truly value and hold close to us are beautiful things, beautiful, loving things that add to the world. And when we can come from a place of independence, acknowledging ourselves, acknowledging our values in ourselves, then we're really able to encourage others to do the same. I love being outside as another example, right? It's like, what do you want to do outside? It doesn't matter. I'll go hiking, I'll go for a walk. I'll go for a walk in the city, I'll go for a walk in the countryside. I like walking in the woods, I like hiking in the mountains. I like walking around rivers. I like swimming, I like boating, I like every kind of boating you can think of. I just love being outside. And so I encourage others to do the same, right? But I start by encouraging myself to do the same. And when other people say, hey, I want to spend the day inside, having that sense of self, right? Not this tough, this false preachy, the false self that people preach about in our society of this tough, independent, I'll do what I want, right? But this sense of, this is what I value. I love being outside. If you want to spend the day inside on a beautiful sunny day, friend, go ahead. Me, I love how nice it is outside, even if I'm going to go work, right? Sometimes I have the nicest day and I think, I'm going to go work. I love working. I love working and I like being outside. Well, geez, what a win. I'll go split wood for, I've cut wood and trees for 10 hours because it's a nice day. So, that's that opportunity for you to say, hey, look, friend, if you want to stay inside all day, that's okay. I don't have to be tough. I don't have to say, hey, I'm an independent person. I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to say, look, if you want to be inside, you're welcome to. I want to be outside. I'm going to go be outside, and maybe they'll say, well, what are you going to do? And you can say, maybe you don't even know. Maybe you're just going to go outside and things will point you in the direction. You're going to walk outside and you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to go for a drive. Then you're going to go for a drive and you're going to be like, wow, look, I didn't know they had a coffee shop there with an outdoor patio. And next thing you know, you're sitting in the patio reading a book. It's like, you don't know where it takes you necessarily, but because you have that healthy sense of self, you don't have to be this tough, independent person, well, I'm not coming over because, I want to be outside today and you don't. So, it's like, no, let go of all that. True independence is a healthy sense of self that recognizes that you can do what you value. And you can encourage others to do the same. Hey, friend, it's a nice day and we don't always have nice days like this. Come outside with me. Come take a hike. And they say no, and you say, that's okay, right? And then you notice the level of comfort and calmness and peace you experience in being outside by yourself, right? Like I started with, a lot of times we have a hard time putting our phone down, getting off social media, not picking up the phone and texting a friend. The minute we're alone, the minute we have silence, the minute we're in seclusion and by ourselves, right? As some people like to say, I like to say with myself, but some people like to say by themselves. I call that noticing your words. But to be able to observe and say, wow, here I am at this coffee shop, reading, and I really want to text people. It's like, is that codependence? Is that enmeshment? Is that a dependency? Is that a need, right? When really I should just be breathing into myself and embracing this sense of selfness that maybe I'm not familiar with, maybe I haven't been taught, maybe I haven't been encouraged and led into, when I was younger, and now I kind of have to discover it on my own as I'm older. Like, that's fine, right? But notice that, because that's typically where it happens, is when you're driving home from work by yourself, the workday's over and you have this huge daunting evening or huge daunting weekend off. You're like, oh God, I don't want to be with myself for the weekend. I need to call friends. I need to see who's free. I need to open a bottle. I need to pick up my joint. I need to scroll social media. I need to we can't stop consuming. We can't just be. We can't just be with ourselves. And that's where you might be struggling with independence and you haven't discovered that sense of self. But like I said, that sense of self is this realization that you're in a little bubble, and it's a comfortable bubble. It's a bubble you can pop and be connected with. It's not something scary. You're not locked off and separated from the world. You're just in your own little bubble that can also float around and connect with other bubbles. You think of think of soap, right? You look at your soap in your sink, and there's a billion different bubbles connected. But you don't have to do that. You can maintain that separate bubble and embrace it. And if that's where you're struggling, to realize that there's things you love doing all by yourself, then maybe you need to reflect on this more and ask yourself, how have I been feeding my dependence, my enmeshment, my codependence? How can I encourage myself to give myself love and grace, to experience some love for myself in independence, right? Because true independence is you being okay with being with yourself only. It's not a matter of fighting. It's not a matter of being tough and saying, I'm going to be by myself as you tell other people angrily, right? Because that I would argue that's you fighting your own mind. That's you fighting your own subconscious and your psyche. If you have to express it in such a negatively emotional way, then you probably have some work to do, and that's okay. That's welcome to the club. Most people have work to do on themselves, and yours just happens to be in relation to independence. But we get fed this false idea of what independence looks like, and you have to look tough, and you have to look wealthy, and you have to make money by yourself, and you have to be able to afford your own place, and you have to be able to have a pet, and you have to like I said, have money and be fun and have activities and drive a car. No, none of that is true independence. True independence is acknowledging yourself and being able to be with yourself and being able to understand and love the things you hold valuable and share them with others, right? And share them with others with love. If you know what you value, maybe you value horseback riding or off-roading or bicycling or driving, but you have to angrily tell others, then you still haven't accepted this sense of self. It's when you can say, this is what I love doing, and just breathe into it and go do it regardless of what other people think or regardless of what other people want to do, is when you've really come to a place of healthy independence. And I will conclude this by saying, independence is only the second step. This is where people really get sold short by society. We all start dependent. It's how you start as a child. Many of us stay dependent into adulthood before we learn about independence. Then we get fed this false idea of independence. And once you discover independence, there's actually a third step, an even greater step of enlightenment and elevation and living. And that's interdependence. It's a synergetic state where you can independently, with another whole independent individual, collaborate to create something awesome. That's what great businesses look like sometimes. That's what great friendships look like. That's what great families look like. That's what great relationships look like, is because they've come to a place of separate, wholesome independence and then come together in trust and faith. Peace.